Hey, fellow fans! Get ready for the next thrilling chapter of What If Deku Meets His Queen? As we delve deeper into the realm of quirks and romance in Part 5. Don't miss out on the excitement. We see Izuku in a small house, sleeping peacefully. It seems like he's just sleeping. Rimuru's point of view. Everything is over now, the orc issue isn't a problem anymore. But Izuku hasn't woken up for 4 days. Though I felt relieved seeing him breathing while he slept. The lizardmen wanted a meeting, but I told them it's fine to wait until Izuku wakes up. They understood, even though they also want to meet him. Rimuru, Shien, Sue, and Hakuru didn't say a word. Shuna and Kurobe explained what happened to Izuku. They put Izuku in a small house, and they were alarmed and worried when Ranga brought Izuku to the village like this. I understand, I was worried too, like everyone else. End of Rimuru's point of view. We see Rimuru and the others in the meeting place. Nobody is doing anything or saying anything until Shien speaks up. Shien, Izuku-sama still hasn't woken up. Rimuru, yes. And that worries me. All of us, actually. Sue, yeah. Hakuru, don't worry, Izuku-sama will be fine. He's very strong, remember? Rimuru, Shien, and Sue nodded. Kurobe is with Kajin, trying to help him, although he doesn't have any spirit for it, just like the rest of the village. But he thought Izuku wouldn't want them to feel this way, so he continued with his task. Rimuru, but Rimuru-sama is always with him. He said, catching their attention, when we arrived in the village, she was the first one to look for Izuku-sama. Now she's taking care of him with some goblins, and sometimes Shuna helps too. Shien, you forgot to include me as someone who takes care of Izuku-sama. Sue, we also have a meeting with the lizardmen. Hakuru, but Izuku-sama is still sleeping. Sue, yes, that's why Rimuru-sama said it's okay, but only when Izuku-sama wakes up. Everyone, we hope Izuku-sama wakes up soon. With Rimuru. We see Rimuru in a chair, watching over Izuku. Rimuru, Izuku, when you wake up, we have a meeting with the lizardmen. The orc issue is over. She said, looking at Izuku sleeping, I know you may not hear me or maybe you do, but please. Wake up. Everyone is worried about you. And me the most. She said sadly, watching Izuku sleep. Rimuru glanced at Izuku, approached, and lay down beside him. Rimuru, try to wake up soon. She said and started sleeping beside him. I forgot how warm it is to sleep beside Izuku. She thought and started hugging Izuku, falling asleep. Then Shuna enters. Shuna, I hope Izuku-sama gets better. She thought and then saw the scene. This annoys me, but just this once, I'll leave them alone. She thought with a sigh, wake up soon, Izuku-sama. She thought and left. When Shuna left, Izuku moved a bit. Gradually, he began to wake up. Izuku, what? He thought as he saw blurry, slowly regaining his vision. What happened? Where am I? He wondered as he slowly recovered, but he noticed something. Am I in the village? What happened after I passed out? He said and noticed someone hugging him, seeing Rimuru sleeping peacefully. Rimuru appeared to be worried about me. He said with a poker face. She looks cute sleeping. He tried to free himself from Rimuru's embrace, but she wouldn't let go. The more he struggled, the tighter her hug became. Izuku, I feel like a fairground plush toy. He comically thought and then changed back to his human form. Much better. He heard Rimuru murmuring in her sleep. Izuku, is she sleep-talking? He thought with a chibi face. Rimuru, Izuku. So soft. Izuku looked at her comically. Izuku, I'm glad you're enjoying it. Rimuru, Izuku, wake up. Soon. Everyone. Worried. Izuku, wow. Everyone was worried about me? I should apologize later for being so reckless. Rimuru, me the most. Izuku looked at her confused. Izuku, me the most what? Rimuru, I love you more. Izuku, I love you. Don't leave me. Izuku was surprised but didn't show it. Izuku, well, this is unexpected. Master. Izuku, Jarvis, don't shout, I'm not deaf. Sorry, even though I knew you'd be okay, I was worried you'd keep sleeping. Izuku, I understand, thank you for your concern. You're thinking about what Rimuru said, aren't you, Master? Izuku, yes, I honestly can't believe she loves me. What did I do to make her fall for me? I don't know, maybe you should ask her, like Shuna and Shion. Izuku, why should I ask them, Jarvis? I don't know, just saying. Izuku, well, I don't know what to say. Sometimes I feel things. Maybe she did manage to do what she said before. Maybe, master. Izuku, anyway, I have to check on everyone and make sure they see me well so they'll stop worrying. Plus, I want to know what happened after I passed out. I understand, but try to rest a little more. Izuku, I'm a slime, I passed out from lack of magicules. Fine, master, but at least rest a little more, okay? Izuku, alright, Jarvis. Thank you, master, take care. Izuku settled in a bit and returned Rimuru's embrace. Izuku, I feel very loved. Thank you for your concern. He thought as he started to fall asleep. Maybe I should do what she said last time. 4 hours later. We see Rimuru waking up slowly, realizing she was hugging Izuku, but what made her blush was that Izuku was hugging her back. Rimuru, how did this happen? She thought nervously and blushing. Although it doesn't bother me. She said with a smile, her face still red, but then. Izuku, I don't mind either. Rimuru, I'm glad you don't mind, Izu. She didn't realize that Izuku spoke to her. Izuku? She said as she quickly got out of bed. Izuku, yes, that's my name. What's the matter? He said with a chibi face, but Rimuru lunged towards Izuku, hugging him again. Rimuru, you're finally awake. She said as she hugged him. You had me really worried. Izuku, relax, I was just sleeping, I ran out of magicules. He said as he tried to calm Rimuru. Rimuru gave Izuku a smack. Rimuru, don't do that again. Izuku, I understand, and yeah, I deserved it. He said with a poker face. Rimuru, but I'm glad you finally woke up. She said, hugging him again. Izuku, relax, you know I'm not easy to kill. Rimuru, whatever you say, but still, take care, okay? You had us all worried. Izuku, sorry again, and I have to check on the others. He said, trying to get up, but Rimuru pulled him back. Rimuru, where do you think you're going? You need to rest more. She said, and Izuku was about to say something, but she continued. I don't care that you're a slime like me. You're going to rest, period. She said firmly. Izuku, alright. He said, feeling a shiver. I don't want another scolding. Rimuru, I'll let the others know, you rest. She said with a smile, getting up. By the way, I forgot how well I could sleep with you, so from today on, I'll start sleeping by your side, if you don't mind. She said with a smile and a slight blush. Izuku, sure, I don't mind. He said calmly. Rimuru, I'm glad. She said and left. A few seconds later. We see Izuku looking at the ceiling calmly. Izuku, is that stain new? He said comically. But then he heard some people walking or rather, running. Izuku, what's go? He couldn't finish because the door burst open, breaking in the process and leaving a big hole. Well, that would work pretty well as a window. Everyone, Izuku-sama. They said and rushed to Izuku. Izuku, this is going to hurt. Oh wait, I don't feel pain. He thought comically. A few minutes later. We see everyone looking at Izuku while Shion and Shuna continued hugging him like a teddy bear. Rigard, Izuku-sama. Rimuru, I'm glad you finally woke up. Sue, I'm glad you're okay, Izuku-sama. Hakuru, yeah, you're good as new. He said as he watched Izuku being hugged. Kurabe, Izuku-sama, it's amazing but very reckless. Shion, don't do that again. She said as she hugged him. Shuna, you worried us too much, Izuku-sama. She said as she hugged him tightly, causing a drop of sweat to form on Izuku. Izuku, relax, I'm fine, but I can't promise anything. He said comically. Shuna and Shion, you're mean, Izuku-sama. Everyone watched with laughter and joy. Honestly, everything was quiet and more discouraged. Izuku's presence had a significant effect on everyone in the village. Rimuru watched that while keeping her composure, she just looked away. Izuku noticed that inside, he would have to talk to her about something at some point. Rigard, let's celebrate that Izuku-sama woke up. Rigor, yeah. Gobta, yeah, food. Shion, yes, and then I can make delicious food for Izuku-sama. She said, and everyone looked at Izuku with pity. Izuku, but first, make Benimaru eat it. He said calmly. Shion, of course, I have no problem with that. Benimaru, I'm so happy Izuku-sama woke up that I'm not afraid of Shion's food. Well, just a little. Izuku watched as everyone talked about how they were going to have a feast to celebrate his awakening. He watched it calmly, feeling happy and fortunate to have people who care so much about him and take care of him. Izuku, guys, seriously, thank you, you're the best. For this, I'll protect you all, even if it costs me my life. Right now, I'm grateful to be alive. Rimuru watched him with a smile, although a bit annoyed to see Shuna still hugging Izuku. Izuku, guys. He said, and everyone looked at him. Thank you. He said, giving a smile. For Izuku, it was a simple smile, but for them, it was something else. Everyone looked at that smile with happiness and excitement. Some fainted from the illuminating smile that Izuku radiated, some managed to endure it. Ranga, I'm very honored to see your smile, Izuku-sama. He said, bowing. Benimaru, it was very radiant. Hakuru, very illuminating. Sue, that wasn't normal. Kurabe, it's the first time I've seen Izuku-sama smile. Shuna and Shion blushed at seeing that smile, while Rimuru looked away with a slight blush. Rimuru, it was like last time. Shuna and Shion, it's beautiful. They said, with Shion hugging Izuku again and Shuna hugging him tighter, causing Izuku to sweat. Izuku, during the feast, I'm going to ask what happened while I was sleeping. He thought, coming to his senses. I have a feeling more things are going to come in the future. POV. Izuku. After waking up, there was a celebration that lasted all night. It made me happy to see everyone having fun and laughing. That's why I fight to make this last longer. Rimuru told me everything that happened after I passed out. Honestly, I didn't miss much. He also said there would be a meeting with the lizard man and the orcs in a few days, but they were waiting for me to wake up to start the meeting. The day passed, nothing interesting, honestly. Rimuru did most of the talking. I was just a spectator, although they still asked me questions, and I responded with my personal opinion. Now we have the orcs and the lizardmen as our allies. The lizardmen worked on bringing fish and such, the goblins on the homes, and the orcs on the heavy work. I wanted this to end quickly, and from what I noticed, Rimuru shared the same thought. But I've noticed Rimuru is now closer to me, like Shion and Shuna, but more Rimuru. I know how she feels about me, but I'll have to talk to her about it later. Fin_POV. Izuku. We see Izuku and Rimuru still at the meeting, watching the lizardmen, goblins, and orcs kneeling before them. Trainee, the dryad, was also kneeling. Izuku, I'm glad it ended well. He whispered to Rimuru, who only nodded. I forgot that Rimuru is now the forest elder of Jura. Trainee, I forgot to say something to the great Izuku. She said with a smile, grabbing everyone's attention, especially Izuku's. Izuku, can it be something so weird? Maybe it's like Rimuru or something similar. He thought calmly. Trainee, you will be my lover. She said, leaving everyone blank. Izuku, she said. Lover? He thought with a chibi face. Rimuru, what do you mean, lover? She said while hugging Izuku protectively. Trainee, he will protect me when I need it. She said calmly. And this forest, more help wouldn't be bad at all. Rimuru and Izuku, she's like her guardian. They thought comically. Izuku, alright, I like to help. He said calmly. Rimuru hugged Izuku tighter. Rimuru, just in case she tries anything. She thought while looking at the dryad. Shion tried not to kill Trainee, but managed to control herself while being seen by everyone with a sweat drop, while Izuku had a poker face. Izuku, whatever. He said, and everyone looked at him. It's all decided. Now let's strive to move towards a better future. Everyone, yes. Chief, I think it's good. It will be an honor to work hand in hand with you, great Izuku. Said the lizardman leader. Izuku just nodded. A few minutes later. We see Izuku walking towards the exit. Rimuru stepped forward, but then he saw something and hid. He saw an orc talking to Benimaru and the others. The orc was kneeling, apologizing. Benimaru saw this with a bit of amazement like the others, but what surprised him more was that the orc also said he would cut his head off to apologize and not harm his own. Izuku watched this normally as he hid and waited for Benimaru's response. Benimaru, it's not necessary. He said, and the orc looked at him. I know what you did to our village, but now we have the same masters. Besides, if you betray us or do something similar to the village, Now you won't tell anyone, none of it. So, let's work hard. He said with a smile. And take care of our masters as well as we do. We appreciate it too much, they even gave us titles. The orc looked surprised as he held back tears of regret and gratitude, but he fell silent when he heard about the titles. Shion, that's right, I'm a samurai. I'm Rimuru-sama's bodyguard and in my free time, Izuku-sama's, and also his assistant. She said proudly. Rimuru, Hakuru is an instructor, Sue is a spy, and Kurabe is a blacksmith. These titles were given by Izuku-sama and Shion, just like Rimuru is Shuna, who is the sacred princess, and me as the general samurai. He said proudly. Izuku, I'm glad they like the titles. He thought comically. Rimuru, so work hard, and maybe our masters will give you one. He said and started to leave like the others, leaving the orc alone as he only thanked. Izuku, you're kind, Rimuru. He thought calmly, but then he saw Rimuru? In her original form. Rimuru, Rimuru is kind, Buti Izuku is even kinder. Maybe he follows Izuku's example. She thought, but then she noticed someone was lifting her up, alarming her. Huh? She said, noticing who it was. Izuku. She said relieved, changing to her human form. You scared me. Izuku just looked at her comically while she was confused about it. Rimuru, what's wrong? Izuku, seriously, don't you notice? He said, and then Rimuru realized that Izuku was holding her like a princess when she changed to human, not calculating it would end up like that. Rimuru blushed slightly and started to move nervously, but then Izuku lowered her, making Rimuru quickly separate from him. Rimuru, I'm sorry. Izuku, don't worry. He said calmly. Besides, I'm not the only one who heard about Rimuru and the orc just now. He said, and Rimuru nodded with a nervous smile, although she had a slight blush from earlier. Then Izuku began to leave, but before that. Rimuru, Izuku. She said, getting his attention. Where are you going? Izuku, I'm going to see the beautiful scenery of Jura. It gets more beautiful every time we build more things. He said calmly, and she nodded with a smile. Rimuru, I understand, but you can't leave yet. She said with a chibi face. Izuku, why not? He said with a poker face. Rimuru, well. We have to name the surviving orcs. Izuku, the orcs? He said, and she nodded. The ones who survived? He said, and she nodded again. You mean the 100,000? Rimuru, what part don't you understand? Izuku, why you're so beautiful. He said, and she blushed. Rimuru, what? Izuku, I mean, do we really have to name 100,000 orcs? Rimuru, yes, I know it's tedious, but we have to do it. Besides, it'll be quick, 50,000 for you and 50,000 for me. Izuku, sigh fine. Rimuru, let's go then, and can I know what you said before that? Izuku, about not understanding why you're beautiful? He said calmly. Even though it's Shizu's body. He thought comically. Rimuru, do you really think that? She said a little shy and red. Izuku, I don't just think it. He said, and she lowered her head, but then. Because I know you are. He said and started to leave. Rimuru watched for a moment and then gave a big smile, following Izuku until she stood beside him. Now I have to figure out how to feel a feeling again. Days later. We see Izuku on a hill looking at the scenery. Izuku, finally. We finished naming everyone even though it only lasted 7 days. Yeah, just 7 days. He said comically. Izuku kept looking at the scenery as he began to close his eyes, and in a second, he fell asleep. A few hours later. We see Izuku waking up slowly, feeling an extra weight and noticing it's Ranga, who appeared to fall asleep on top of him again. Izuku, am I really that comfortable? He thought, but then he moved carefully not to wake him. Keep sleeping peacefully, Ranga. He said, but then he noticed something that left him comically. Wait a moment. It's already getting dark. Izuku looked at the sky, noticing some stars. Izuku, did I really sleep almost the whole afternoon? Slimes don't control their dreams. Or is it just me? He thought and looked at the village but noticed something peculiar. Since when do we have winged horses? He said with a poker face and then started to walk back to the village calmly. If I had done something wrong, they would have already done it, so there's no hurry. A few minutes later. We see Izuku arriving at the village calmly, but then he was intercepted by Shuna. Shuna, Izuku-sama, you're back. She said while hugging him, and he just reciprocated. Izuku, easy there. Did anything happen while I was gone? He said, and Shuna looked at him, then nodded. Shuna, yes, but you have to be with Rimuru and the others with the guests. Izuku, guests? Shuna, yes, you missed a few things, so let's go to the others who are waiting for you. She said, grabbing Izuku's hand and leading him while he had a comedic look. A few seconds later, we see Izuku arriving where everyone else was, but as soon as he arrived, he noticed that some were drinking, and others were already drunk. Izuku sighed and looked at Shuna, laughing a bit about it. Izuku also noticed Rimuru talking with two gentlemen. Izuku, what happened here? He said calmly as he entered with Shuna. Everyone, Izuku-sama. They shouted as they stumbled towards him. Izuku noticed that some were red, indicating they were drunk. Shien, Izuku-sama, where were you? They let go of him. Izuku, around, I was watching the scenery. Rimuru, but didn't Ranga call you? We told him to call you because something urgent happened. Izuku remembered Ranga asleep on top of him. Izuku, no. He didn't notify me of anything. He said comically. Rimuru, Izuku, you finally show up. She said animatedly while hugging him, and Izuku just reciprocated. Izuku, yeah, I lost track of time. Gazelle, so you're that guy, aren't you? He said as he stood up from where he was and approached Izuku, accompanied by another man. Izuku looked at him for a moment. Izuku, who are you? Everyone was blank, especially Rimuru, Geld, and Chin. Rimuru, he's the king from when we were at that trial. Izuku was processing. Izuku, oh, I remember now. He said with a chibi face. Everyone had a sweat drop. Izuku, and can you tell me what you're doing here? Everyone was blank, especially Rimuru, Geld, and Chin. Rimuru, he's the king from when we were at that trial. Izuku was processing. Izuku, oh, I remember now. He said with a chibi face. Everyone had a sweat drop. Izuku, and can you tell me what you're doing here? Everyone was blank, especially Rimuru, Geld, and Chin. Rimuru, he's the king from when we were at that trial. Izuku was processing. Izuku, oh, I remember now. He said with a chibi face. Everyone had a sweat drop. Izuku, and can you tell me what you're doing here? Everyone was blank, especially Rimuru, Geld, and Chin. Rimuru, he's the king from when we were at that trial. Izuku was processing. Izuku, oh, I remember now. He said with a chibi face. Everyone had a sweat drop. Izuku, and can you tell me what you're doing here? Everyone was blank, especially Rimuru, Geld, and Chin. Rimuru, he's the king from when we were at that trial. Izuku was processing. Izuku, oh, I remember now. He said with a chibi face. Everyone had a sweat drop. Izuku, and can you tell me what you're doing here? Everyone was blank, especially Rimuru, Geld, and Chin. Rimuru, he's the king from when we were at that trial. Izuku was processing. Izuku, oh, I remember now. He said with a chibi face. Everyone had a sweat drop. Izuku, and can you tell me what you're doing here? Gazelle, I am Gazelle Dwargo, the king of the dwarf kingdom, and this is my advisor. He said introducing himself. Izuku listened attentively. Gazelle, anyway, we also want to have an alliance with you. He said, surprising both of them. What do you say? A union of a nation like mine would help you immensely, don't you think? Plus, it would help us equally, so we both win. Rimuru, I'm not sure, but... She was interrupted. Izuku, of course, why not? Rimuru looked at him comically. Izuku, what? It would help us more, and besides, I highly doubt you can deny that, so I accept, let's get to the point. He said comically. Rimuru, Sai, you're right, fine, we accept the alliance. Gazelle, I'm glad to hear that. And what is the name of your nation? Izuku and Rimuru, huh? Gazelle, I said, what is the name of your nation? Rimuru, darn it. I don't have any name. Let's see, Tempest and Jura then. She was interrupted by her thoughts. Izuku, Tempest Federation Jura. He said calmly. Rimuru, you stole the words right out of my mouth, Izuku. And yet it sounds great. Rimuru stood up along with the others. Rimuru, Tempest Federation Jura, I like it. Shien, me too. Rigurd, then the village should bear Rimuru's name, so it shall be called Rimuru Central City. Rimuru was alarmed by that. Rimuru, hey, that sounds embarrassing. Izuku, well, I like it. Rimuru, you too? And besides, you're like the second leader, it should have something memorable for you too. Sue, she's right, Rimuru-sama. He said, and then everyone gathered in a circle to discuss this, while being observed by Rimuru, Izuku, and Gazelle, as well as the man accompanying him, with a sweat drop. Izuku, enough, it's not necessary, this is fine. He said calmly. Shien, Izuku-sama is so modest. Rigord, we don't deserve it. Benimaru, I second that. Sue, how? Modest of you, Izuku-sama. Hakuru, it's true. Izuku, I think I'll just keep my mouth shut. He thought comically. Gazelle, ha ha ha, I'm glad you're all enthusiastic, so shall we make this alliance between nations official? He said, and Rimuru nodded. Then between them, they shook hands. And I'm glad your boyfriend is just like you, Rimuru. Izuku was about to say something, but Rimuru interrupted him. Rimuru, isn't he though? He's the best. Then she hugged Izuku while the others laughed at this, and Shien and Shuna just looked away annoyed. Izuku, so an alliance between nations? It's getting more interesting by the minute. He thought while still being hugged by Rimuru. POV. Izuku. Now we have an alliance with King Gazelle, I didn't expect that. It will help us a lot. Our town is slowly becoming like a city, that's our goal. And now we are a nation, Tempest Federation. King Gazelle left. But he came back 2 days later. POV. Izuku. We see King Gazelle looking at Izuku, Rimuru, and Kaijin with a smile. They looked at him in a funny way, except Kaijin, who seemed normal but a bit nervous. Gazelle, how are you all doing again? Izuku and Rimuru. He said with a smile. Izuku, yes, how are you, but what brings you here? Gazelle, I came to deliver a gift. Rimuru and Izuku, a gift? Gazelle looked at one of his men, who nodded and went to get the gift. They brought out what seemed like a wrapped person. They tossed the gift towards them, and the face was revealed, it's Vesta. Kaijin, that's the minister, Vesta. He said surprised. Izuku, who? Vesta only had spiral eyes and foam coming out of his mouth. Rimuru, seriously? Gazelle, I thought it was a waste for such a talented man to have nothing to do. However, I can't have him at my service. You can use him. Izuku, how boring, is that why they called me? Kaijin, Majesty, if it were so, Vesta's knowledge would abandon the dwarves forever. Gazelle, do you think he abandoned the dwarves for anyone else? He said, silencing Kaijin. That's why we formed this coalition. Make this land you inhabit thrive with new and different abilities. He said, and Vesta was slowly recovering. Vesta, yes, Majesty? Gazelle, here you must dedicate yourself, body and soul, to your studies. Vesta bowed to him. Vesta, I will, this time, my king, I will fulfill all your expectations. Then he looked at Rimuru, Izuku, and Kaijin. Vesta, Lord Rimuru, Kaijin, I'm sorry, would you be so kind and merciful to let me work with you? He said, almost crying, surprising Kaijin and Rimuru. Izuku was another story. Izuku, forgot my name? Well, can't blame him, I forgot his too. He thought comically and started to leave. Rimuru, Izuku, where are you going? Izuku, just around, I'll help where I can in the village, this bored me. He said while walking, but then stopped. Oh, by the way, Vesta or whatever your name is. Vesta looked at him with a few tears in his eyes. Izuku, just do your best and help the village a lot, I know you can. He said calmly and started walking again, leaving a smile on Gazelle, Kaijin, and Rimuru. Rimuru, you never change, do you, Izuku? He thought with a smile. Vesta just kept thanking while bowing many times, tears streaming down his face. Gazelle watched that for a moment, then bid farewell and left. Izuku heard some applause and turned, showing that they had already left. He just sighed, and as he was about to leave, he noticed something peculiar. Izuku, what are you all doing here? He said comically as he looked at 4 reptiles. Gabiru, me? Well, I'm Gabiru, I come with the hopes of. He was interrupted by Izuku. Izuku, yeah, you're accepted, save your words, okay? Gabiru, why yes. He said, and Izuku was about to leave but he spoke again. Izuku, won't they leave me alone? He thought with a chibi face. Gabiru, thank you. Izuku was just confused. Gabiru, thank you for saving me that time from the orcs. Izuku, oh, that? It was nothing, I like to help. Then Shion arrives. Shion, oh, Izuku-sama, I was looking for you. She said happily but then noticed Gabiru. Can I cut him in half? That scared Gabiru. Gabiru, hey, hey, hey. He said alarmed to see Shion drawing her sword. Then Rimuru arrives. Rimuru, another commotion? First the king and now this? She thought tiredly. Why did you come? Gabiru, we just came to see if we could join your powerful ranks. He said, and then knelt before Rimuru and Izuku, like the other three reptiles. I promise we'll be very useful, we beg you. The three reptiles, we beg you. Rimuru looked at Izuku. Izuku, like I said before, you're accepted, just don't betray us like you did your leader. He said calmly but the last part a bit threatening. Gabiru, why yes, sir. Izuku, just call me Izuku, it's no big deal. Gabiru, oh of course, Izuku. He saw Shion drawing her sword. Izuku-sama. He said and noticed Shion putting her sword away. I felt like she'd kill me if I called him by his name. He thought a bit scared. Then Gabiru's sister speaks. Izuku, since when is she here? He thought comically. Captain, thank you very much for accepting my brother, Izuku-sama. This time he learned his lesson. Izuku, no problem, and what are you doing here? If I may ask. Captain, I wasn't banished like my poor brother. Gabiru, what? Izuku, calm down. He said with a sweat drop. Gabiru, so, you didn't follow me because you missed me? Captain, absolutely not. She said, hurting Gabiru. Rimuru, a punch would have hurt less. Izuku, Rimuru. Rimuru, yes, Izuku? Izuku, give Gabiru's sister and her followers names, and I'll name Gabiru's followers. He said and she nodded. Gabiru, wait, seriously you'll give them names? Reptile, to us? Reptile 2, to us? Reptile 3, really? Izuku, of course, I figured you didn't have names, so I'll give you one. He said to the three and looked at Gabiru. Not you, because you already have a name, Gabiru, right? He said, but then he felt a bit weak. Wait, what? Then Gabiru started glowing with a joyful smile. Gabiru, thank you very much, Izuku-sama, I'll follow you for the rest of my life. He said while bowing. Rimuru, wait, can names be changed? Izuku, apparently so. He said, watching Gabiru kneel before him. Gabiru, thank you very much. Rimuru, anyway, I'll go name Gabiru's sister. She said and he nodded. Rimuru went towards Gabiru's sister, leaving Izuku with Gabiru and the others. POV. Izuku. I named the four, but I didn't anticipate having to name Gabiru's family members. Rimuru said it's my problem, besides, she only named a few. But well, I asked for it. Also, I noticed they all evolved into Dragonutes. After that, I called Sue to train Gabiru's sister and her followers. I noticed they lacked training. He quickly accepted when I said it. Rimuru named her Soka, the others were Saika, Toka, Nanso, and Hokuso. Also, I noticed they almost looked like humans when they evolved, that surprised me. I thought they'd be like Gabiru and the others, but it wasn't the case. Speaking of which, Rimuru said I needed to plant the valuable herbs of Picute or whatever they're called, so I took the opportunity and sent them. Rimuru guided them on where to plant the herbs. After that, Rimuru arrived, and I asked her if they would be okay, but she told me to relax, it's a humid place so it's perfect for them. I just sighed, and she was right, it's perfect for them. Vesta is in the same area that Rimuru sent the others to, we made his own center for Vesta studies. He's working on healing positions with the Picute herbs we brought. If it's at the same healing level as Rimuru and Mia's potion, that would be very useful. _POV. Izuku. We see Izuku walking calmly on a hill. Izuku, what a peculiar day. Like any other day. He said with a sigh. Then Rimuru appears. Rimuru, so, here you are. Izuku, of course, where else would I be? It hurts that you don't know me well. He said comically. Rimuru, sighs anyway, I came to tell you something. Izuku, what is it? He said curiously. I'll take the chance and tell him I heard when I woke up. He thought but noticed Rimuru had a slight blush. Rimuru, are you okay? You're blushing. Rimuru, why yes, I'm fine. Izuku, are you blushing because of what you're about to tell me? Rimuru, yes, it's something I wanted to tell you. She said, a bit nervous and shy. I've clarified it, I have to say it, taking advantage that neither she nor Shuna are here. Izuku was intrigued by what Rimuru wanted to say. Rimuru, I wanted to tell you that. I like you. She said in a whisper. Izuku, huh? I didn't hear you, like this. He said as he got closer to her. Rimuru, why is he so close? And why am I so nervous? I've known him for a long time, and yet, I feel like a high school girl about to confess. She thought, blushing from the proximity. I said that. Suddenly, Izuku and Rimuru felt a powerful energy approaching them at a surprising speed. Izuku, what is that? Rimuru, I don't know, but it's approaching very fast. He said and thought. Damn it. Why now? Then the two saw a pink energy approaching them. That energy collided with where they were, generating an explosion and leaving a large crater and a lot of dust in the process. Izuku, this was one of my favorite spots. He thought comically. Rimuru, who are you? She said to the figure seen through the dust. Milim, I am the one and only, Dragonoid, also known as Destroyer. I am the Demon Lord, Milim Nava. Rimuru, Demon Lord? Izuku didn't say anything, but when he heard she's a Demon Lord, he became serious. Milim, I heard that you two are the strongest here, especially you, Slime. Rimuru changed into his original form. Milim, I knew it was a slime, I always win. She said amused. Also, the humanoid slime. Izuku, she knows about me? Was she spying on us secretly? Rimuru, damn it, we can't make a wrong move. Milim, besides, I haven't come to fight either, I've come to introduce myself. Rimuru and Izuku, that aura. Rimuru, her ambition is just like Veldora's, there's no doubt, she's a demon lord. He thought but then felt someone touching him, realizing it's Milim. Huh? It's a pleasure to meet you. My name is Rimuru Tempest, I'm the ruler of this city. You must be surprised that a slime like me is one of the strongest here. Maybe the strongest. Izuku, there's no doubt about that. Milim, it's actually the simplest thing when we're talking about someone like me. My Milim, I can see and determine the level of magicules of anyone. Izuku, if we're going to talk, let's do it in a better place. Milim, of course. Izuku, but don't destroy anything, please. Milim, I can't promise anything, but I'll try. Izuku, even though she's a demon lord. She has the mentality of a child. And that could work to my advantage. I think Rimuru also noticed it from her behavior. He thought comically. So, what did you come for? Milim, what are you talking about? I already said I came to introduce myself. Izuku and Rimuru, yep, the mentality of a child. Izuku, sighs, well, I'm glad, I don't think I've introduced myself. My name is Izuku Midoriya. Milim, Izuku? Well, nice to meet you, the great Milim says so. Izuku and Rimuru looked at each other comically. But then Ranga appeared and tried to take Izuku and Rimuru away, but Izuku managed to break free while Rimuru had to grab a branch to stop Ranga. Izuku, sorry, they're sometimes like this, and they only worry. Milim, don't worry, I understand perfectly. Then they noticed that Shion appeared with her sword in hand and was about to attack Milim. Izuku, stop. Then everything stopped, realizing that Sue appeared with some threads, Rimuru with black flames in hand, and Shion still had her sword. All, but Izuku-sama. Izuku, relax, it's a visit. He said calmly. Milim, yes, just a visit. She said with a smile as she hugged Izuku from behind. Rimuru and Izuku watch as Milim eats honey as if her life depends on it, accompanied by Ranga, Sue, Rimuru, and Shion, who simply watch. Milim, this is so good. It's delicious. She continues eating. Izuku, Rimuru. He says, and Rimuru looks at him. We should save the honey we have left, or she'll finish it all. He says with a chibi face. Rimuru, I was already planning to do that. He says calmly. Milim, hey. That's not fair. If I want more of this stuff, you're not going to give it to me? Rimuru, I don't know, it depends. If you behave well, maybe we'll give you more honey, that's what it's called. Milim, honey? Alright, you guys are mean. She says while finishing what's left. Izuku, I remember Rimuru likes that with bread. When we made bread, she took out a jar of honey, he thinks comically. But I'm glad you like the honey, Malim. Malim, of course, the great Malim approves. Rimuru, I wish she would just leave before she brings us more problems, he thinks while sighing. Izuku, I wonder if she'll leave. Not that it's bad, but she seems kind of troublesome, he thinks with a poker face. Malim, hey. She says to Izuku and Rimuru. Have you two ever thought about becoming demon lords? Rimuru and Izuku look at each other for a few seconds. Izuku, no. He says simply. Rimuru, why would I get into that kind of trouble? Malim is taken aback by their response, especially Izuku's. Malim, huh? But wouldn't it be awesome to be demon lords? Everyone would want to become one. Izuku, why? He says, and Malim looks at him. I know they're awesome, strong, and all that, but some people hate them, detest them, or are just plain afraid of them. He says, remembering Shizu's story. I don't hate you or anything, I'm just saying they have a bad reputation, and I don't want to become a demon lord because of that. It's just too much work. And what I have to do in the city is enough for me, I don't ask for more. He says calmly, giving a smile to Sue, Ranga, Rimuru, and Shion. Rimuru transforms into his human form. Rimuru, Izuku is right, I haven't thought about becoming one at all. Malim, you guys are weird. Rimuru, but what good comes from becoming a demon lord? He says, and Izuku becomes interested in this. Izuku, oh, wow, this is interesting, he thinks comically. Malim, strong opponents come from all over to face you, it's very fun. Izuku and Rimuru, but we already have plenty of those, we're not interested. Malim, what? Then how do you guys enjoy life, huh? Rimuru, well, in many ways, I have so much to do, it's crazy. Izuku, yeah, that's true, and besides fighting, what's fun about being a demon lord? Malim, well, you can control monsters and humans. She says with a smile. Izuku, sounds like a dictatorship to be a demon lord, he thinks comically. Rimuru, hey, are you just bored? This leaves Malim speechless. Rimuru, of course, you're super bored. Izuku, well, anyway, we're leaving now. He says as he grabs Rimuru princess style, making her blush. I have to do several things in the city, he thinks, but he's pulled by Malim, causing him to release Rimuru, but she turns back into her slime form. Malim, wait. What you guys do is much more fun than being a demon lord, isn't it? She says while shaking Izuku back and forth. Rimuru and Shion, hey, let him go. They say while trying to free Izuku, but Malim won't let go. Rimuru/Ranga/Sue, Izuku-sama. I'm sorry. They think as a treacherous tear falls. Malim, it's not fair, it's not fair. She says, but then she hugs Izuku tightly, choking him, which annoys Rimuru and Shion as she still tries to free him from her grip. Izuku, what a commotion, he thinks with a chibi face while being hugged tightly. Good thing I'm a slime, or I'd be dead from lack of air, he thinks comically. Malim, what do you want me to do? Malim, I want to experience that life too, please, I beg you. She says, but then Rimuru and Shion manage to free Izuku. Huh? Rimuru returns to his human form and hugs Izuku, while Shion hugs him too. Rimuru lets it slide this time. Izuku, okay, that's enough. He says, making Malim sparkle with stars in her eyes. Rimuru, more problems, he says, hugging Izuku a little tighter. But there's a condition. Malim, condition? Rimuru, yes, from now on, you will call Izuku Great Izuku and me Great Rimuru. He says, looking seriously at her. And you won't hug Izuku like that anymore, it'll only be for a brief moment. Izuku, I don't know what's going on honestly. Malim, Great Izuku and Great Rimuru? But it should be the other way around, starting today, I want you to call me Great Malim, understood? Rimuru and Malim stare at each other seriously, even sparks start flying from their eyes due to the rivalry. Shion just hugs Izuku tighter with a death aura, the others just have a sweat drop. Izuku, alright, let's do this, we'll call you Malim, and you Izuku to me, and Rimuru to her, just our names, how about that? Malim looks at that for a few seconds. Malim, well, okay, but only you and Rimuru, no one else, only my kind can call me Malim, the other demon lords. She says, looking away. Rimuru, yes, thank you very much. He says, while Shion lets go of Izuku but stands next to him. Rimuru does the same. Izuku, well, I guess we're friends from now on. Malim, aha, well, I guess so. She says, but looks at Rimuru and then at him, seriously. Izuku, sigh, also, no more fights. Malim, I can't promise that. Rimuru, I'll only fight if she starts it, he thinks comically. Izuku, okay, now let's go to my village, but I don't want you causing a ruckus without my or Rimuru's permission. That you must promise me, Malim. Malim, maybe I'll promise that, so sure, yes. She says with a smile. I promise you, Izuku. Rimuru, Izuku-sama, taming a demon lord, he thinks comically. Ranga, my master is getting cooler every time. Shion, I didn't expect anything less from Izuku-sama, but I won't let her hug Izuku-sama like that. Sue, I must inform Rigard immediately about this, he thinks with a smile, and proceeds to disappear. Malim just laughs while Rimuru and Izuku look at her comically, but then they hear a very familiar voice. Gabiru, what? He says as he arrives at the scene. Tell me, who's that little girl? Izuku, it can't be, he thinks as he puts his hand on his face. Rimuru, well. I guess this is it. Shion, well, I have to prepare food for Izuku-sama. Ranga and Benimaru, idiot. They then see Malim hitting Gabiru, sending him flying towards the village. Malim walks in that direction. Izuku, well, sorry, Gabiru, but you brought this upon yourself, he thinks as Rimuru turns back into her slime form. Izuku grabs her and starts running towards the direction of the village, like the others. When they arrive, they notice everyone paying attention to the scene while Gabiru seems knocked out. Malim walks towards him while Izuku walks behind her like the others. Malim, who did you call that little girl, you want to die, huh? Izuku, I just told her not to cause any commotion. Malim, listen, if you're still conscious or not, I don't care, but I'm in a very good mood today, that's why I'll let you go, it won't happen again, so be careful. Gabiru then gets up. Gabiru, hey, I saw my father calling me from the other side of the tunnel, it was impressive. He says surprised. Rimuru and Izuku, but your father is alive, useless. They say with a poker face. Gabiru, huh? Anyway, who's this little girl? He was interrupted by Malim's death stare. I mean, who is this lovely lady? Izuku, she's Malim, appearing as a demon lord. He says calmly, astonishing Gabiru even more. Gabiru, a demon lord? He says in shock. Izuku, I understand you perfectly. Well, kind of, he thinks comically. Rimuru, listen, Malim, you can't just go around hitting people when you're angry. Malim, but he was at fault for bothering me, besides, that's my way of greeting, don't you see, Rimuru? Izuku, I think that's not a way to greet, don't do it again, okay? He says, but then looks away. Please. He adds, lowering his head a bit. Malim notices this for a moment and, for some reason, feels guilty. Malim, MNNN. Fine. She says, and Izuku raises his head quickly. Izuku, thanks. He says calmly. Malim, was I deceived? Minutes later. We see Izuku, Rimuru, and Malim on a stage to announce Malim, with a crowd around. Izuku, I've gathered everyone here to introduce our new ally, we'll treat her properly, as if she were our guest, although she is. He says the last part in a whisper. So be nice to her. Malim, my name is Malim Nava. She says with a smile. Surprising everyone. Goblin 1, a demon lord? What is she supposed to say? Goblin 2, wow, it's my first time seeing a demon lord. Gobta, perfect, Rimuru-sama, Izuku-sama. Rigard, Rimuru-sama and Izuku-sama have made friends with a tyrant, with that, Tempest will live in peace for all time. He says, tears comedically coming out of his eyes. Izuku and Rimuru look at this with surprise. Rimuru, so Malim is famous, I'm surprised she's taking it so well. Izuku, MNNN. I wonder how Gabiru is doing now? Malim, I've decided to live here from now on. Nice to meet you. Rimuru and Izuku, huh? This cheered everyone up while Rimuru and Izuku were surprised by what she said. Rimuru, you're going to live here? Malim, yes, that's exactly what I said, I've made the decision to live here. Rimuru was about to say something but was interrupted by Izuku. Izuku, sigh, you heard her, treat her like everyone else. He says, and the others nod. Izuku and Rimuru, she's quite popular. Malim, whatever happens, you can count on me. Izuku looks down for a moment. Izuku, I'm friends with a demon lord. Maybe that'll help me find that lion guy. Malim, lion? Well, whatever. Calling us friends sounds weird, don't you think? Izuku, huh? Are you even listening to what I'm saying? Malim, let's see. Instead of calling us friends, I got it. She says, while hugging Izuku tightly. We'll be besties. Izuku, besties? Isn't that the same thing but in a diminutive form? He thinks comically. Rimuru, hey. Let him go, now's not the time for that. He says, separating the two. Malim, hey. But it's comfortable. Rimuru, sadly, I'm the only one who can hug him like that. He says, and these two look at each other seriously. Besides, Shien and Shuna also hug him without my permission. Izuku, wow, besties huh? He says, trying to calm her and change the subject back to the main one. Malim, yeah, besties, don't you want that? She says, with tears welling up, which alarms Izuku. Izuku, we're besties, did you all hear? Malim and I are besties. This made everyone shout happily, surprised, and very cheerful as they said yes, they're besties. Malim hugs Izuku again. Malim, you really know how to surprise people, Izuku. She says with a smile. Rimuru also hugs Izuku, who just sighs. Izuku's POV. That's how I became besties with Malim, more dangerous than a barrel of gunpowder or more dangerous than a foe, by far. After that, Rimuru took her to the hot springs. I couldn't join for obvious reasons although Malim felt me enter as well as Shien and Shuna, the latter said it with a big blush, while Rimuru, well, he just politely asked me to leave, although it wasn't my fault, it was Malim dragging me towards them. I told Rimuru to take advantage of it to relax. While I had a meeting with Benimaru and the others, I told him not to worry, we'll talk later, I want him to relax, he deserves it, and now, what awaits us in the coming days? Just thinking about it, excites me but also worries me, only time will tell. End of Izuku's POV. We see Izuku walking calmly through the city with Ranga. Izuku, everything has changed around here. He said as he looked around. Ranga, that's true, Izuku-sama. Izuku, by the way, where's Rimuru? Ranga, Rimuru-sama must be with Kaijin and the others where Vesta is. Izuku, I see, then let's continue our stroll, Ranga. Ranga, yes, Izuku-sama. The two began to walk, exploring new places because Izuku is bored, and Ranga is only with Izuku because he is his master. Izuku, he must be testing the potions. He thought as he walked. I'm bored, don't know what to do, finished what I had to do, world. What do you have for me today? Be careful what you wish for, master. Izuku, true, but I hope something interesting happens today, Jarvis. As you wish. Ranga, Izuku-sama. He said, getting his attention. It's strange that Miss Malim isn't with you. Izuku, her? She's with Shuna and Shien taking care of her and feeding her, so she can leave me alone for a moment. He said, and Ranga nodded. Since she's been living here, she's always bothering me, always asking for more food or just wanting to play or do something fun. Besides, from what I see, Rimuru and Malim don't get along well at all, I wonder why. Izuku stopped thinking about that and continued walking with Ranga. Minutes passed, and we see Izuku on a hill with Ranga. Izuku, I always say, the city is becoming amazing, but the view from here is incomparable. Ranga, what happened to the other hill, Izuku-sama? Izuku, Malim destroyed it when she arrived. He said simply, and Ranga had a sweat drop. Ranga, what do you think Miss Malim is doing? Izuku, I don't know, but I hope nothing scandalous. Although I'm asking for too much. When Ranga was about to say something, an explosion in the village occurred. Izuku, I hope it's not Malim. Please, world. He said as he looked at the sky. I told you, be careful what you wish for, master, and I think you're asking too much for her not to be responsible. Izuku, you're being funny today, Jarvis. He thought and sighed. Ranga, yes. He said and began to head towards the city, but before that, Izuku mounted Ranga. Minutes later. Ranga was running at full speed while Izuku held onto his fur tightly to not fly off. Izuku, he took it seriously when I said fast. He thought comically. In a few seconds, they had arrived. The first thing they noticed was Rimuru scolding Malim while the latter argued with Rimuru, both were arguing before everyone. Izuku, what did I miss? He said as he arrived at the scene. A new guest appeared in the city. Izuku looked confused and glanced behind the argument between the two of them, revealing 3 people he hadn't seen before, but one of them was lying on the ground with foam coming out of their mouth, leaving Izuku with a poker face. Shion, the person lying on the ground, is Malim, who did this to him for hurting Rigard. Izuku, I see. Ranga, appear, Miss Malim, only defended Rigard. Izuku, true, but there was literally an explosion. Izuku went to where the argument between Rimuru and Malim was. Rimuru, what did we tell you about causing a commotion? Malim, it wasn't my fault. He asked for it for hurting one of your subordinates. Rimuru, I understand that perfectly, and thanks, but you caused a commotion. Malim, but he's not from this city, so it doesn't count. Rimuru, oh, of course it counts. Izuku, enough from both of you. He said, and they fell silent. I found out already, and yes, Rimuru is right, it counts, you caused a commotion. Malim, huh? She said and looked at Rimuru, who was looking at him with a mocking smile. Izuku, but don't fight with Malim. Rimuru, but I had to tell her what she did wrong. Izuku, true, but she defended Rigard, I can let that pass. Rimuru, alright, but Malim won't have lunch today. Malim, huh? That's unfair. She said and went to the person who was lying down and grabbed him by his shirt. It's all your fault. Now you'll pay for leaving me without lunch. She said and prepared her fist. Izuku, no, wait. Minutes later. We see Rimuru, Shion, and Rigard along with Rimuru and Izuku. Malim was beside them with a small table and a piece of furniture while eating peacefully. It's a gathering with the newcomers. Izuku, another meeting. He said tiredly. You know? He said, looking at Rigard. I think you should have left your face as I left it, then you wouldn't be so ugly. Rigard controlled himself, the others got a little angry at that comment. Izuku, hey, show some respect, okay? We didn't disrespect you. He said calmly. Disrespect seems to be abundant around here. And who invited you? Significant human. Rimuru, Shion, and Rigard gave the guy a mean look. Rimuru, respect Izuku, okay? She said seriously. And now another significant being. Shion, don't kill him. Rimuru, calm down, breathe. Rigard, that guy. Rimuru, for your information, these significant beings are stronger than you. Ha, I doubt it. Izuku, one question, do you assist one of the demon lords? Yes, and it's. He was interrupted. Izuku, wait, I just asked if you work, I never said you could say the name of that pathetic one. Insolent. How dare you? He was interrupted by Malim's deathly aura. Demons. Why her? Izuku, Malim? He said, and she stopped emitting the murderous instinct and continued eating peacefully. Whatever, we just came to say that you interrupted our plans. Rimuru, plans? Yes, but you should already know that because, as I said, you interrupted them. He said angrily. Rimuru and Izuku, is he talking about Oklord? Malim, oh. Those plans. Izuku, you know about them? Malim, obviously, but I can't say anything, that's just the demon lord's business not to interfere. Izuku and Rimuru, there's something fishy going on here. Whatever, we're leaving now. He said and stood up from his seat. Izuku, of course, there's the door. He said calmly. The guy and his companion started to leave, but before that, the guy looked at Malim for a moment. I promise you'll pay for this someday. He said angrily and left with his companions. Izuku, Rimuru, and the others looked at the door. Izuku, phew, glad they're gone. Rimuru, me too, they were starting to annoy me. Shion, but, are you sure we should let them go just like that? Rimuru, of course, they won't do anything for now, but I'm worried that we interrupted their plans. Izuku, yeah, I guess we're now targets of the other demon lords. Malim, too bad for you. She said calmly while eating. Rigard, that's a big problem. Izuku, anyway, Malim. He said, and she looked at him. How about increasing your food ration? Malim, sounds great. She said excitedly. Izuku, but you'll have to tell us what plans those demon lords had. Malim, huh? I'm not sure if I should tell you, as I said, we swore not to interfere with each other. Izuku, but we're friends, right? He said, and she was hesitating a lot. Hey, relax, don't pressure yourself, but that food will get cold. Malim, alright, we're friends, so I don't see the harm. Izuku, that's right. And I'll make you a weapon exclusively for you. He said calmly. Malim, huh? Even more reason, of course. Izuku, with Malim, it's too easy. Although I feel a little bad for doing that. He thought with a chibi face. Rimuru, what a move was that? Minutes later. Izuku, phew, so that's why? Rimuru, as I suspected, it's from Ocklord, a puppet for the Demon Lords, and we interrupted that. Malim, I don't see why so much fuss about it, it was just for fun. Izuku, maybe for you, Malim, but not for others. Malim, whatever, now friend, you owe me that food portion and that weapon you promised me. Izuku, of course. He said calmly. But I'm glad this meeting with them is over. Rimuru, yes, but what were you doing before that? Izuku, I was walking with Ranga through the city. Rimuru, why? Izuku, I was bored, okay? Rimuru, well, then this should take away your boredom. Izuku, unfortunately not, it was very boring, honestly, nothing interesting. He said, and as he was about to leave, the door was opened by some people known to Izuku and Rimuru. Rimuru, Kaval, Gito, Aaron? The three, hey, long time no see. Izuku, it can't be. He thought as he looked at the ceiling. Izuku's POV. Some things happened, now we are officially allies with them. The only thing that interested me about all this was the profit. Now we're going to sell our potions made by Vesta. I honestly like the idea, now we have a source of income. Good one, Rimuru. Also, he said one of them would take credit for defeating Ocklord, and we would help as the saviors. That surprised them, but before that, I'll train with Hakuru since they have to look like saviors. Other than that, it was very boring for me, swallow me, Earth. End of Izuku's POV.